The sun was sinking behind the red hills of the Arizona Territory when Clara Whitmore realized she had finally run out of reasons to hope. She stood outside her family's ranch, with one small wooden trunk beside her. The wind pulled at the loose strands of her chestnut-brown hair, while dust drifted across the yard. Inside the house, her father was already celebrating. Not because his daughter was leaving, because her leaving would solve a problem. Clara had known for years that she was different from her brothers. Her two older brothers had been given horses, rifles, and opportunities. Her father spoke proudly of them whenever visitors came to the ranch. Clara was simply expected to work. She cooked meals before sunrise, she cleaned the house, she repaired torn shirts, fed the chickens, collected eggs, and helped with the cattle whenever there was extra work. Her mother had once made those duties feel meaningful. "Your kindness will matter someday," her mother used to tell her. But her mother had been dead for 4 years. Since then, kindness had seemed to Clara like a weakness everyone exploited. That evening, her father finally called her into the kitchen. His face was tired. "There is something we need to discuss." Clara stood quietly. "What is it?" "The ranch is in debt." She already knew. She had heard the arguments at night. Creditors had stopped by several times. Horses had disappeared from the property because her father had sold them. Even the barn roof had gone unrepaired. Her father continued, "Thomas Bell has offered to settle part of what we owe." Clara's stomach tightened. "Why?" Her father avoided her eyes. "He wants a wife." The room suddenly felt colder. Clara stared at him. "You're not saying you will marry him?" Her lips parted. "No." Her father finally looked at her. "You don't understand our situation." "I understand perfectly. You are 22. You need a future." "A future with a man I don't love?" "Love doesn't pay debts." Clara felt tears burning behind her eyes. "So that's what I am?" Her father frowned. "What? Payment?" He didn't answer. That silence hurt more than any words could have. The next morning, Clara packed. She had only a few dresses, her mother's old shawl, a Bible, and a small wooden hairbrush that had belonged to her mother. No jewelry, no photographs, nothing that suggested she had ever been cherished. Her youngest brother watched her from the doorway. "Are you really leaving?" Clara nodded. "Father says I have to." The boy looked uncomfortable. "Will you come back?" She wanted to say yes. Instead, she whispered, "I don't know." Her father appeared behind him. "Enough." Clara lifted her trunk. She waited for him to say something. Anything. A goodbye. A blessing. Perhaps even an apology. He only said, "Don't embarrass this family." Clara stared at him. Then she walked away. The wagon that carried her belonged to a trader heading toward a distant settlement. Clara sat silently in the back, holding her mother's shawl around her shoulders. She watched her family's ranch disappear behind the hills. She expected to feel anger. Instead, she felt empty. For 2 days, the wagon traveled through increasingly wild country. On the second evening, the driver stopped near a dry riverbed. "We'll rest here." Driver kept looking toward the horizon. "Is something wrong?" "No." But he wouldn't meet her eyes. That night, Clara fell asleep beside a small fire. When she woke before sunrise, the wagon was gone. The horses were gone. The driver was gone. Her trunk remained beside the ashes. Clara stood completely still. She couldn't believe it. Then she understood. He had abandoned her. She looked around at the endless desert. "Father." Her voice disappeared into the wind. For several minutes, she simply stood there. Then she picked up her trunk. She began walking. The sun rose higher. The desert became hotter. Her boots filled with sand. By midday, her lips were cracked. By afternoon, her legs trembled. Still she walked. She refused to die there. But eventually, her strength disappeared. Clara stumbled toward a dry riverbed and collapsed beneath a mesquite tree. Her last thought was that nobody would even know where she had died. Several miles away, an Apache warrior named Takoda was returning from a hunting journey. He noticed tracks in the sand, human tracks. He followed them. Then he saw the woman beneath the tree. Takoda immediately became cautious. He approached slowly, keeping his rifle lowered. Clara opened her eyes. She saw a tall Apache warrior standing several yards away. Fear flooded through her. She tried to stand. She couldn't. "Please," she whispered. Takoda stopped. "I won't hurt you." Clara shook her head. "Please don't take me." "Taking you anywhere." He reached for his water canteen. Clara stared at it. "You need water." She hesitated. Then desperation defeated fear. She drank. The water was warm, but it felt like life itself. Takoda noticed the bruises around her wrists. "Who did this?" Clara looked away. "My family." Takoda's expression hardened, but he did not ask more. "You are injured. I can walk." She tried. Her knees immediately gave way. Takoda caught her before she struck the ground. Clara expected him to take advantage of her weakness. Instead, he carefully lowered her back onto the ground. "You cannot walk like this." "I have to." "Why?" "Because nobody is coming for me." Takoda looked at her for several seconds. Then he said something she would remember for the rest of her life. "Then, you will come with me." Clara stared at him. "To your people?" "Yes. They'll hate me. They haven't met you. They'll know I'm white. They will know you are hurt." That answer stunned her. Takoda helped her onto his horse. He walked beside the animal instead of riding it. After several hours, they reached an Apache camp hidden among the hills. Clara immediately became nervous. People looked at her. Children whispered. Women stopped what they were doing. Clara lowered her head. She expected hatred. Instead, an older Apache woman approached. Her name was Naya. She examined Clara's feet and shook her head. "This girl has walked too far." Takoda nodded. She was alone. Naya looked at Clara. "Come." Clara followed her. Inside a small shelter, Naya cleaned Clara's wounds. Clara flinched. "I'm sorry." Naya looked surprised. "For what?" "For causing trouble." Naya smiled. "You are not trouble." Those words broke something inside Clara. She looked away quickly. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Naya noticed, but said nothing. That night, Clara slept beneath a warm blanket. She woke several times, expecting to find herself alone. But every time she opened her eyes, someone was nearby. Women working, children sleeping, a small fire burning. And outside the shelter stood Takoda, watching the darkness, guarding the camp, guarding her. The next morning, Clara walked outside. Takoda was sitting near the fire. She approached him. "Why did you help me?" Takoda looked at her. "Because you needed help." "No one does that without wanting something." "I did." She studied him. "Why?" Takoda looked toward the rising sun. "My mother taught me that a person in pain should never be ignored." Clara swallowed. "Your mother was a good woman." "She was." There was sadness in his voice. Clara sat beside him. "My mother was good too." Takoda glanced at her. "What happened to her?" "She died." "When?" 4 years ago." Takoda said nothing. For a while, they watched the sunrise together. Then Clara whispered something she had never admitted aloud. "My father sent me away because he didn't want me." Takoda turned toward her. "He was wrong." Clara looked down. "You don't know me." "I know enough." "What?" "I know you walked across the desert instead of giving up." Clara's eyes filled with tears. Takoda continued. "That tells me something about you." "What?" "You are stronger than you believe." For the first time in years, Clara allowed herself to believe that perhaps she wasn't worthless. Perhaps she had simply been surrounded by people who never understood her value. She looked at Takoda. "Thank you." He nodded. "You are safe here." Clara looked toward the camp. For the first time since leaving home, she felt something unfamiliar. Not fear, not loneliness, not rejection. Belonging. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know that danger would soon follow her. She didn't know that Takoda would become the person who changed her understanding of love. All she knew was that the family who had sent her away had believed she was their last choice. But this Apache warrior had looked at her suffering and seen something completely different. He had seen a woman worth saving. And for the first time in her life, Clara wondered whether being rejected by the people who raised her might become the beginning of discovering who she truly was. Weeks passed after Clara Whitmore arrived at the Apache camp. At first, she felt like an intruder. Every sound was unfamiliar. Every custom seemed different from the world she had known on her father's ranch. She did not understand the language spoken around the fires, and she worried constantly that she would make a mistake. But nobody treated her as an unwanted guest. The women taught her patiently. Naya showed her how to prepare food over an open fire. Another woman taught her how to sew leather properly. The children taught her the words they used for simple things, laughing whenever Clara pronounced them incorrectly. For the first time in years, Clara laughed too. She had forgotten what it felt like. Takoda noticed. He never crowded her. Instead, he helped from a distance. Every morning, Clara found fresh water waiting near her shelter. When her boots began falling apart, Takoda repaired them. When she struggled to walk after her injuries, he carved a smooth walking stick for her. One morning, Clara looked at it and smiled. "You made this?" Takoda nodded. "You needed it." She ran her fingers over the polished wood. "My father would have told me I was weak for needing one." Takoda's expression became serious. "Needing help is not weakness." Clara looked at him. "What is weakness?" "Refusing to help someone because you are afraid they will think you are weak." His answer stayed with her. Slowly, Clara began changing. She learned to ride. The first time Takoda helped her onto a horse, she nearly fell. "I can't do this." "Yes, you can." The horse moved. Clara grabbed the saddle. "Takoda." He laughed. She stared at him in disbelief. "You're laughing at me." "You are still on the horse." "That is because I'm terrified." "Then be terrified and keep riding." Clara laughed despite herself. Day after day she improved. Soon she could ride across the camp without assistance. The confidence she gained on horseback began appearing in other parts of her life. She stopped apologizing every time she entered a room. She stopped asking permission to help. She started making decisions. And she began to understand that kindness did not require weakness. One evening, Clara and Takoda sat beside a fire. The sky above them was filled with stars. Clara had never seen so many. "Do you ever miss your old home?" Takoda asked. Clara thought for a moment. "I miss my mother. That is not what I asked." Clara looked into the fire. "No." "Why?" "Because it was never really home." Takoda said nothing. Clara continued. "I thought a home was a place where people shared blood." She looked around the camp. "Now I think maybe it is a place where people make room for you." Takoda looked at her. "You are beginning to understand." "What?" "Home." Clara smiled. But peace did not last. One afternoon, a group of riders appeared in the distance. Takoda immediately noticed them. He stood. His expression changed. "Everyone inside." Clara sensed danger. "Who are they?" "Men who have been looking for you." Her heart stopped. "My father?" "No." Takoda watched the riders carefully. "Men he owes money to." Clara remembered the night before she had been sent away. Her father's arguments. The missing horses. The men who had threatened him. She realized her father had not merely abandoned her. He had sent her away because his problems had become dangerous. That night, Attackers came. Gunshots echoed through the hills. The camp erupted into movement. Women gathered children. Warriors took defensive positions. Clara froze. Takoda grabbed her arm. "Stay here." "What about everyone else?" "Stay here." He disappeared into the darkness. Clara heard another gunshot. Then another. She wanted to hide. But then she heard a child crying. A little boy had become separated from his mother. Clara looked toward the burning edge of camp. She knew Takoda had told her to stay, but she also knew what it felt like to be alone. She ran. She found the child crouched behind a wooden shelter. "Come with me." He shook his head. "My mother!" "We'll find her." Another shot rang out. The child screamed. Clara pulled him against her. "Don't be afraid." She remembered what Takoda had told her. Being afraid did not mean being weak. She grabbed the child's hand and ran. A bullet struck the ground nearby. Clara fell. The child rolled safely behind her. She looked up. Takoda was standing several yards away. His rifle was raised. He fired toward the attackers, forcing them back. Then he ran toward Clara. "Are you hurt?" "No." "The child?" "He's safe." Takoda looked at the boy, then at Clara. His face revealed something she had never seen before. Pride. Clara lowered her eyes. "Yes. I told you to stay hidden. I know. You could have been killed." Clara looked directly at him. So could he. Takoda was silent. Then he nodded. "You were afraid." "Yes." "And you still went." Clara swallowed. "Yes." Takoda looked at her for a long moment. "That is courage." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Nobody has ever called me courageous. I am calling you that now." The attackers eventually retreated. The camp had suffered injuries, but the people survived. That night Clara couldn't sleep. She sat beside the fire alone. Takoda approached. "You should rest." "I can't." "Why?" "I keep thinking about what happened." Takoda sat beside her. Clara looked at him. "When I was at my father's ranch, I thought I was useless." Takoda remained silent. "I thought maybe they were right. They weren't. I know that now." She looked down at her hands. "And I know why." Takoda waited. "Because you never treated me like I was useless." He looked at her. "You were never useless." Clara's heart beat faster. "Why do you care so much?" Takoda looked toward the fire. "Because you matter." Her breath caught. Those 3 words meant more to her than any declaration of love could have. She had spent years being treated like an obligation. Now someone was telling her she mattered. The next morning, Takoda told Clara something unexpected. "You can leave whenever you want." She stared at him. "What?" "You are free." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I don't want you staying because you think you owe me." Clara looked away. Nobody had ever offered her freedom without asking for something in return. "You really mean that?" "Yes." She stood quietly. Then she turned toward him. "What if I don't want to leave?" Takoda's expression softened. "Then stay." Clara smiled. "And if I stay?" "You will be welcome." She took a step closer. "Would you want me to stay?" Takoda hesitated. Then he answered honestly. "Yes." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Why?" "Because somewhere between the day I found you beneath that tree and today," he paused, "you became important to me." Clara looked down, smiling through her tears. She had arrived at the camp believing she was someone's unwanted burden. Now she was standing beside a man who wanted her there. Not because he needed something from her, not because she could pay a debt, not because she had nowhere else to go, but because he valued her. Clara slowly reached for his hand. Takoda let her choose the distance between them. She placed her hand in his. For the first time, Clara understood the difference between being chosen because someone had no other option and being chosen because someone genuinely wanted you. Her family had sent her away as their last choice. Takoda was beginning to make her his first. And Clara was beginning to realize that she might choose him too. Winter came slowly to the Arizona Territory. The nights became colder, but Clara Whitmore no longer feared them. Months had passed since she had collapsed beside the dry riverbed, certain that nobody would ever come looking for her. Now, she woke each morning surrounded by people who knew her name. She had learned to ride confidently. She could prepare meals over an open fire. She could recognize useful plants, sew leather, and help care for injured animals. But the greatest change was not something anyone could see. Clara no longer believed she was worthless. She had stopped thinking of herself as the girl her family had abandoned. She had become a woman who knew her own value. And Takoda had watched that transformation quietly. Their relationship had grown deeper, but he never tried to control it. He did not tell Clara where she could go. He did not decide what she should do. He simply stood beside her. One evening, Clara returned from helping the women gather firewood. Takoda was waiting near the horses. "You're late." Clara smiled. "Are you worried?" "Yes," she laughed. "You could have come looking for me. I thought about it. And I knew you could take care of yourself." Clara smiled. "That might be the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me." Takoda looked at her. "You should hear it more often." She stepped closer. "Maybe I should." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Takoda reached into his pocket and pulled out a small leather necklace. A polished stone hung from it. Clara looked surprised. "What is it?" "A reminder." "Of what?" "That you survived." She touched the stone. "I thought you might give me something romantic." Takoda's mouth curved into a smile. "This is romantic." Clara laughed. "Then I'll treasure it." She allowed him to place it around her neck. His fingers briefly touched her hair. Their eyes met. The moment was quiet, but Clara felt something inside her change. She wasn't afraid anymore. She trusted him. She loved him. But before she could say it, a distant sound interrupted them. Horses. Several riders were approaching. Takoda immediately became alert. "Go inside." Clara recognized the tone in his voice. "Who are they?" "I don't know," but he did. Within minutes, a group of armed men entered the camp, and among them was Clara's father. Her heart stopped. Her father dismounted. "Clara." She stood frozen. He looked at her clothing, the necklace around her neck, and the people standing around her. "You're coming home." Clara's fear slowly turned into anger. "No." Her father stared at her. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You are my daughter, and you sent me away." His jaw tightened. "I did what I had to do. You traded me. You were going to marry Thomas Bell." "I know. It would have saved the ranch." Clara's voice shook. "So I was the price?" Her father said nothing. Takoda stepped forward, but Clara placed a hand on his arm. She wanted to speak for herself. Her father looked at Takoda. "You have no right to keep my daughter." Takoda answered calmly. "She is not something to keep." Clara looked at him. Takoda continued. "She chooses where she belongs." Her father laughed bitterly. "You think she can make that decision?" Clara stepped forward. "Yes." The camp became silent. Her father looked at her as though he were seeing a stranger. Perhaps he was. Because Clara was no longer the frightened young woman who had left his ranch. She stood straight. Her voice was steady. "You sent me away because you thought I was your last choice." Her father frowned, "But I survived." She touched the necklace Takoda had given her. "I survived because someone else saw value in me." Her father looked toward Takoda. Clara continued, "You gave me away because you believed I had nowhere else to go." She shook her head. "I found somewhere." Her father became angry. "This is not your home." Clara looked around the camp. Children smiled at her. Naya stood nearby. Takoda remained beside her. Clara finally answered, "It is." Her father stared at her. Then he demanded that she leave with him. Clara shook her head. "No." The word was quiet, but it carried years of pain. Her father reached for her arm. Takoda stepped between them. His voice remained calm. "Do not touch her." The tension became dangerous. The armed men raised their weapons. Then Clara surprised everyone. She stepped between the two sides. "No one needs to fight." Her father looked confused. Clara continued, "I am not going back. You'll regret this. Maybe." She took a breath. "But at least it will be my decision." Her father stared at her. For the first time, he seemed to realize that he had lost the daughter he once controlled. Not because Takoda had taken her, because Clara had chosen to leave. The men eventually departed, but the danger did not disappear. Takoda knew they might return. That night, the camp moved toward a safer location in the hills. Clara helped organize the families. She remembered the mountain paths she had traveled with Takoda. She guided several people through a narrow passage. At one point, a frightened child slipped near the edge of a rocky slope. Clara immediately grabbed her. "Hold on." The child clung to her. Takoda reached them moments later. He helped pull them both to safety. When they finally reached the new camp, Clara realized something. Months ago, she had needed someone to rescue her. Now she was helping protect others. Takoda looked at her with pride. "You have changed." Clara smiled. "So have you." "How?" "You used to think you had to protect me from everything. And now? You used to think you had to protect me from everything. And now? You used to think you had to protect me from everything. Now you know I can stand beside you." Takoda nodded. "That is true." Later that evening, they stood alone on a ridge overlooking the desert. The sunset covered the mountains in gold. Takoda was unusually quiet. Clara looked at him. "What is it?" "I need to ask you something." She smiled. "You sound nervous." "I am." "Why?" Takoda took a slow breath. "Will you stay?" Clara's heart softened. "You know I will." "I want to hear you say it." She stepped closer. "Yes." "Not because you have nowhere else to go?" "No." "Not because you owe me?" "Never." "Then why?" Clara reached for his hand. "Because you gave me something nobody else ever gave me." "What?" "Choice." Takoda looked into her eyes. "You are free to leave whenever you want." "I know." "And you still choose to stay?" Clara smiled. "Every day." Takoda's eyes softened. "I love you." Clara's eyes filled with tears. She had dreamed of hearing those words once, but she had never imagined they would come from a man who asked nothing in return. "I love you too." Takoda took her hand. The wind moved gently across the ridge. Clara looked toward the horizon. She thought about the day she had left her father's ranch with a single trunk. She had believed her life was ending. She had been wrong. It was beginning. Her family had sent her away because they believed she was their last choice. Takoda had made her his first choice. But even more importantly, he had taught her to make herself a choice too. Clara leaned against him as the sun disappeared beyond the mountains. She no longer wondered whether she belonged. She knew. She belonged where she was respected, where her voice mattered, where her heart was safe. And beside Takoda, she finally understood what love was supposed to feel like. Not ownership, not obligation, not sacrifice forced upon her. Choice. Every morning she chose him, and every morning he chose her. Together they began building a new life, one neither of them had expected, but both of them had finally earned. Clara had once been sent away as a last choice. Now, standing beside the Apache warrior who had seen her worth when nobody else could, she knew the truth. She had never been someone's last choice. She had simply been waiting for the right person to see that she was worth choosing first.